Hey everyone, Grantfly here. Today I'm gonna be going over, I'm gonna be doing something a little different. I'm gonna be looking at a specific matchup. Moto replays have been enabled again on Magic Online, which means you can go look at your old matches. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to go over some of my matches that I played en route to winning the one of the Magic Online challenges last week, as of when I'm recording this, 1 week ago. And in that tournament, I played against a lot of red decks. I played against Sligh 3 times, and I played against Goblins 3 times. Um, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to look at the Sligh versus Moneyball matchup. This is a matchup that seems to confuse a lot of people. I've heard a lot of different opinions about who's favored, which deck is favored. Just to go over some of the sources, Control for Days has been playing Moneyball a decent amount a little while ago, and he said he felt very favored with it against Sligh. On the other hand, I've heard from credible sources in the Sligh playing and red community that they think they're highly favored. And personally, I think the matchup is pretty close to even, but I think depending on how you build your deck, it could vary depending on how each player builds their deck. There are certain cards that are very, very good, and the more of them you have, the better you will do, generally speaking, or the more of them you draw, the more likely you will be to win. And there's a certain way of playing the matchup that is necessary, especially from the Moneyball side, where if you don't play it, if you kind of deviate from this plan, your chances will be reduced dramatically. For Sligh, I haven't played that side of it that much, but I feel like it's a bit more straightforward. I was talking to Chris DiBiase, who's a big Sligh, also known as Iron Lungs, who's a big Sligh and Burn aficionado, and he was saying the Sligh player can gain a big advantage, or some kind of advantage based on how they're sequencing their spells, which I think can make sense. But yeah, there's more ins and outs to this matchup than one might assume. So I will go over some of the go over the replays of the matches I played against Sligh. I played 3 matches in the tournament and try and kind of explain when there's a decision to be made, or why I'm doing a certain thing, or what I expect them to be doing, or what I can infer about what they have or don't have, and that sort of thing. These are the kinds of things that you need to sort of know in order to actually be able to win the matchup on a regular basis. Again, it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to win if you do these things. Like, sometimes they just have a good draw, but it will certainly help to increase your win percentage if you do. Before I do that, I want to kind of explain it in general terms. This is the deck I was playing. This is the build I was playing in that tournament. I played a couple of Knight of Stromgalds. These have been popping up in the mono black decks that I suppose are still Moneyball Black decks, but they have been cutting Ravenous Rats to make room for them. This card, or Black Knight, but I guess this one is more popular. The main reason to play it is because it has protection from white. So it has protection from Swords to Plowshares, which is a big deal. And it has protection from Parallax Wave, waving it out, which is also a big deal. Both these cards are really strong. They are very good against this deck. So I definitely understand the motivation to want to play this card. However, it's not very good against red. And if you cut Ravenous Rats, you will be decreasing your win percentage against red, because this is one of the best cards against red, especially against Sligh. I'll use this to segue into explaining how you win as Moneyball against Sligh. So basically, the way the games play out, step 1, you have to kill their creatures. You have to prevent, or you have to prevent their creatures from dealing you damage. That is priority number 1, 2, and 3, because basically their plan is to deal you some damage with creatures and finish you off with the burn spells. That's the Sligh/burn ideal. And I guess I should say, I keep talking about Sligh and I mentioned burn. People tend, this is a little bit of a digression, so sorry about that, but it could be relevant. People seem to alternate between calling this red deck with burn spells Sligh or burn. I think personally it's useful to, well, I don't know if it's useful. I like to distinguish between these two decks based on whether they are more burn oriented or more creature oriented. So I think of a Sligh deck as one that plays Curse Scroll and all the usual creatures you would see, Mog Fanatic, Grim Lavamancer, and Jackal and maybe also some copies of other 2/1s like Goblin Cadets or Goblin Patrol. If they're doing that kind of thing, I think of the deck as Sligh. If they're playing fewer of those creatures, fewer or no Curse Scrolls, and more Pyrostatic Pillars or Flame Rifts, I would view that as more of a burn deck. So that's how I like to think of the two and the difference between the two. But for practical purposes, it doesn't matter that much in this matchup. The plan is kind of the same against both of them. However, it could influence how you sideboard or how strongly you slant towards creature removal, because a burn deck will have fewer creatures. So I'm just going to talk as if I'm talking about Sligh, the more creature-oriented version, because I think that is more common, and I think that is a more difficult version to play against or to win against. So, but these suggestions can more or less apply to either one. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is prevent yourself from taking damage from their creatures, because if you take too much damage from their creatures, and then you kill them or whatever, the damage is kind of done, because then the burn spells that they draw over the course of the game will be able to finish you off. So preventing them from dealing you damage to creatures is the number one priority. Once you've done that, let's say you've killed their creatures, now they have leftover burn spells. What do? You then need to pivot to attacking them and putting pressure on them with your creatures. Sounds simple, and it kind of is, but it's very, very important, because at that point, the game is now a race, and you need to finish them off before they top deck enough burn spells to kill you. At this point, they will be faced with a decision of whether to point their burn spells at your creatures or at you. I guess that's where the skill in playing mono red comes in on their side. And I mean, as far as you're concerned, you don't really have any choice about this. You have to try and attack them, and it's up to them whether they want to burn your creatures or burn you, and you won't really know if it's correct, and they won't really know if it's correct because they don't know what the top of their library is going to bring. But that's what you have to do. The one way you can influence this, I suppose, is if you have like a Mishra's Factory and a discard spell, and they have a burn spell in their hand, you can kind of force the issue by playing the discard spell, and then they will have to use the burn spell on you, and then you can animate Mishra's Factory and attack them with it, and they won't have the option to use it on the Mishra's Factory. That would be one example where you get some kind of choice, but for the most part, you won't really have much of a decision at this part of the game. A lot of this depends, a lot of whether you're successful in this depends on your draws, and your draws depend on what cards you have in your deck, because if you don't have a card in your deck, you will never draw it, and the more copies you have, the more likely you will be to draw it. So which cards are good? Because that will determine how good the matchup's going to be, the cards you include in your deck. The best card that you have against them, and also that they have against you, is Cursed Scroll. 1 mana, artifact, 3 tap, choose a card name, reveal a card at random from your hand. If it has a chosen name, it deals 2 damage to any target. This card is, it's the best card in the matchup. Either player having it early will very, very highly increase the likelihood of that player winning. I'll put it that way. I guess I can't say it's a guarantee, but it's very strong. The reason is that, I'll talk about it from each side. From the Sligh side, they are going to be in a race with you after you've presumably killed some of their early threats. And if they have Cursed Scroll, they can just kill all your creatures, and you will never be able to win the race because your creatures all die to Cursed Scroll, basically. Except for Graveborn Muse, sometimes Nantuko Shade, and sometimes Factory, if you can pump it with another Factory. But for the most part, your creatures all die. So if they can just kill all your creatures, you will have no chance of racing them. because they'll kill your creatures, they'll draw extra burn spells, they'll be able to point the burn spells at your face rather than at the creatures, and they will win the race. From the Moneyball side, Curse Scroll is a little bit less effective early because you have to get your hand empty in order for it to work. So it's going to be pretty slow at killing their creatures, and you really want to kill their creatures as soon as possible in order to prevent them from damaging you. However, let's say you've done that, and I have had situations where I could kill a creature weirdly early with Curse Scroll, but it's kind of unusual. Anyway, let's say you have done that, and the game is sort of stable. Nobody has any cards in their hand. If you have Curse Scroll as the Moneyball player, you now get to pass the turn with mana open and Curse Scroll up. If they draw a creature, you can kill it. If they don't draw a creature, you can deal them 2 damage. And this is especially effective against something like Ball Lightning. And that's a great option to have against them. It will guarantee that any creatures they draw will not damage you as the game goes on. Now, they can still draw burn spells and potentially race you, but again, the nice thing is if you have Curse Scroll, you can just deal them 2 damage. So their burn spells can deal a little bit more than that, but if you ever get a creature in play attacking, then you are dealing more net than any of their burn spells, or at least keeping pace. So hopefully that explains why Curse Scroll is so good, and it's a high priority to discard it if you can. If you duress them and you see Curse Scroll, 9 times out of 10 you're going to want to take that with duress. Cabal Therapy is a little bit of a different story because even though Curse Scroll is very good, they don't necessarily play. They usually only play 2 or 3 of them, so your odds of hitting it are fairly low if you are blind Cabal Therapying them. So for that reason, I don't necessarily think it's worth it to name Curse Scroll, but I could be convinced otherwise. What you name with a blind Cabal Therapy has a lot to do with what you have in your hand and the kinds of answers you do or don't have. So that's a tough one to kind of make blanket statements about. But anyway, yeah, so that's the deal with Curse Scroll. The second best card for Moneyball is, I guess I would probably say it's Mishra's Factory. Is it land that can become a 2/2 assembly worker? You know what Mishra's Factory does. It's one of the reasons that this deck is good, or one of the big reasons. And I think this deck is one of the best at using Mishra's Factory in the whole format. And the reason it's so good against Sligh or Burn is that basically it's an extra threat on a land. Not that complicated, but it's a good blocker. It is another attacker that forces them to use a burn spell. So I mean, the way you win against Sligh is you have a creature that survives and they have either used or you've discarded all their burn spells and they can't deal with your last creature, and that last creature races them. So Mishra's Factory is instrumental in being one of those last creatures because it's a creature and a land. So it's like you get to play 4 more free creatures, and 5 if you count Spawning Pool, which is like a little less than half as good as Mishra's Factory. So that is, it's not the flashiest thing in the world, kind of like the whole deck, but it is one of the big differences in why this deck has a decent matchup against Sligh where no other black aggro deck really does. I guess Pit Rack, if you want to consider that an aggro deck, probably has a good matchup, but I wouldn't really call that a normal aggro deck, whatever. And this is like more of an aggro control deck. But black decks with creatures that are trying to attack usually have a pretty bad matchup against Sligh, and this one has a decent matchup. And this is part of the reason why. And the third big reason why is Ravenous Rats. So this card looks pretty unassuming. It's just a 1/1 for 2 that makes them discard a card. But against Sligh, it's very, very good. And the reason is that the matchup, it's almost like a weird pseudo mirror matchup. And cards are just like trading 1 for 1, except for Curse Scroll, which I talked about earlier. That's why Curse Scroll is so good, because it can do more than trade 1 for 1. And this is also why Grim Lavamancer is insane for them. If they ever, get to activate that a few times, you almost certainly aren't going to win. So you need to kill all their creatures, but that one and Jackalpup are especially important. I could see maybe being able to win if a Mog Fanatic lives for a turn or 2. Like, that's not necessarily the end of the world, but the other 2, it's very bad. Anyway, back to Ravenous Rats. The reason Ravenous Rats is so good is that most of the cards in this matchup are just trading 1 for 1, and Ravenous Rats is a 2 for 1. It also really messes them up if you play it early because they don't know what the top of their deck is going to bring. They have a limited number of cards, and they're going to have to decide. If it gets a burn spell, that's obviously amazing, because your Ravenous Rats just discarded a lightning bolt or a fire blast or whatever. That's incredible because it buys you a bunch more turns. It's not that complicated why that's good. If it discards a land, usually that means they have a kind of land heavy hand. So it discarding a land is usually not as good, but it still can be good because these lands can still be relevant, at least early on in the game. It can combine with other cards to make things awkward for them. So it's not usually as good if it discards a land, but it still can be. It being a 1-for-1 that just kind of sticks around is pretty good against Jackal specifically, because now they have to decide whether to use a burn spell on your 1/1 or trade Jackal off for a 1/1, or just it keeps Jackal from attacking, which is obviously great because that's what that card is there to do. So yeah, I mean the Cliffs Notes version is that it nets you a card, and every card matters in this matchup, especially early. It can make things very awkward for them. We'll see an illustration of this or an example of this in one of the matches, and you can see why it's so good. The rest of the cards in your deck are not that good, but they are there basically just to do. They do the least exciting version of what they could do against any deck against Sligh, because Sligh is so good at killing creatures. So Hypnotic Spectre is almost never going to actually hit them and make them discard a card, because they can always just kill it with any number of burn spells that they have. Later on, they'll be empty-handed, and Hypnotic Spectre is a Windrake. A Windrake is not a great card, but it is a relevant card, because it is a race and it attacks for 2. Basically, at the end of the day, it's not very efficient, but I don't think that matters. It still is doing something that you need it to do. That said, it is a card I could see boarding out some copies of. Withered Wretch, same kind of thing. Attacking their graveyard can be relevant sometimes for Barbarian Ring or Grim Lavamancer. Sometimes they have Lava Dart. You can snag a Lava Dart. But for the most part, this is just going to be a Grizzly Bear, and that, again, is all it needs to be. That is how you win the matchup, attacking with Grizzly Bears and forcing them to burn away the Grizzly Bear or die. Nantuko Shade has a little bit more upside than Withered Wretch. It is more vulnerable to Lava Dart and Mog Fanatic. However, if you get it later, there is the chance that you can pump it out of range of their burn spells or force them to use 2 burn spells on it. Either of those is a very good outcome, and if they don't have anything for it, somehow, everybody's exhausted all their resources, you top deck a Shade, it's going to kill them very, very quickly. So Nantuko Shade is very good. Or I shouldn't say very good. It's pretty solid. Knight of Stromgald is like a strictly worse Nantuko Shade. You can tell from the stats, it can't pump its toughness. So that's not great against a burn deck. Per white is irrelevant. First Strike could be relevant against like Ball Lightning or something, but again, it dies to literally everything, so probably won't be. The removal spells are there to kill their creatures. Snuff Out is awkward because it costs you 4 life. Graveborn Muse, but later on in the game, you'll probably have plenty of mana, so then it actually becomes okay. But it's not, it's not great overall because you don't want to be losing life against Sligh. The discard spells are good, it's nice to have one early because it can just trade with a burn spell, which is good, or, a creature potentially with Cabal Therapy. However, they're not great in general because the game does tend to go on a little bit, at least if it's going the way you want and you don't just get burned to death. And in that case, discard spells are mostly a dead draw. There's a little bit of nuance to this after board, which I will get to. Finally, Graveborn Muse is an interesting one. I actually think Graveborn Muse is okay in this matchup, unlike Phyrexian Arena would be. As a side note, if you decide to play 4 Phyrexian Arenas in your deck, you have conceded the burn matchup. I don't know why you would want to do that, but just know that that's what you're doing. I mean, presumably you do know that already because you've read the card and you can understand that it's extremely bad against burn. It doesn't attack them. It makes you lose life every turn. You're helping their strategy. The difference with Graveborn Muse is that it actually does attack them as a 3/3, which is not small in the context of Premodern. That's like a pretty large creature. And the matchup, as I have said, is a race. So this card does race. Now, is it always good? No. But every time I've played it, maybe not every time, but I think most of the times I've put the card into play, my opponent has killed it. To me, that's an indication that it's good. Because if it wasn't, they would just let it go. They'd be confident they could burn you out with it. And I think they're probably right to have killed it. So I'm not saying I would board in a second, but I think having one is probably okay. This is a little bit of a hot take, but I think that has been my experience. Is there anything else to talk about in the main deck? I don't think so. So let's move on to sideboarding. Basically, in sideboarding, what I like to do is remove Snuff Out and remove some discard spells, leaning more towards Cabal Therapy, because even though it can hit doubles, it can also completely whiff, and that isn't great. And I like to bring in obviously the third Curse Scroll, because it's the best card, as we talked about. I was playing Funeral Charm against Sligh to hit their early creatures. That can hit, for those who don't know, Funeral Charm is an instant for 1 black that can give a creature +2/-1 and do some other stuff, but that usually isn't relevant. But the idea with it is to kill Jackalpup, Grim Lavamancer, Mog Fanatic, and Ball Lightning, and Goblin Cadets, or whatever other 1 toughness thing. I was convinced to try Vendetta instead because it can also be boarded in against goblins, where I would have also wanted Funeral Charm. And in addition to killing Goblin Lackey, it can also kill other goblins later on in the game, whereas Funeral Charm cannot, because most of those other goblins have 2 toughness. It can also be boarded in against Dreadnought if you are willing to pay the iron price to kill a Phyrexian Dreadnought, which you probably are, because that thing needs to die. And so far, I have not found the one life. The 1 life has not hurt me against Sligh and caused me to lose a game I otherwise would have won. That could happen, but right now I lean towards Vendetta. So I would bring that in against Sligh, even though it makes you lose life, because it also can kill one of their creatures early. And as I mentioned, that is an extremely high priority. I would board in the extra. I usually play 1 extra removal spell, either Edict or Smother. I would bring that in, again, because you need to kill their creatures. Plague Bearer, I don't know, but I guess I would probably bring it in because it can kill a creature later, and it can be a 1/1 to throw in the path of a creature, although that probably won't work. I would not bring in Tormund's Crypt to answer Grim Lavamancer or Barbarian Ring. I think that's too narrow, and they can really just build up. Like, if you don't kill the Grim Lavamancer, you're not really solving the problem, because they can just get more cards in their graveyard pretty soon. Drain Life, obviously. A lot of people don't like this card and don't play it, but I do, and I do play it, and it's good against Sligh, whatever you want to think. So that obviously is a card I would bring in. As a side note, it's also very good against the version of Burn that has Pyrostatic Pillar, because A, they play fewer creatures. So if you were going to play a anti-creature gain life card like Spinning Darkness or Vicious Hunger, you could easily find yourself without a target, which is part of the reason in general that I prefer Drain Life to those cards. And the other nice thing about it against Pillar Sligh is that you can play it for X = 2 or more, and it will not trigger Pyrostatic Pillar. So you get to drain them, and you don't take any damage. That is enormous, and it can be matchup swinging, because, again, it's a very close matchup. So those are the reasons I like Drain Life. You want to hate on Drain Life and not play it? Be my guest. Engineered Plague. As I mentioned, obviously I wouldn't bring in Dystopia. If I had Gloom, I wouldn't bring in Gloom. Graveborn Muse, I talked about it. I think it's okay, but I don't think I would want the second one. And this brings us to Engineered Plague. Usually I like to bring in like 1 or 2 of these. I don't think you want all 4. And I'll try to explain why you don't want that many usually. Basically, I mean, if you see your opponent has like a bunch of Goblin Cadets or extra goblins or something, then you could adjust. But one of the things you can run into playing against Burn here's the problem. You need to early removal spells to kill their creatures early so they don't deal you any damage. But then later on, you can kind of get choked on removal spells, and they can just end up drawing a bunch of burn and no creatures. And then you'll be sitting around with cards that don't do anything in your hand, and you'll get burned to death. So you do need to balance killing the creatures and pressuring them. And that is why I don't necessarily think you want all 4 engineered plagues. But plague is, I mean, it can be good if they draw creatures after you've named the creature type that they draw with plague, then obviously that's really good, and you've essentially discarded a card from their hand preemptively. So that's strong, but it's hit or miss. It's also a bit slow in terms of dealing with creatures that are in play already. And in a lot of matchups, that wouldn't necessarily be a huge deal, but against Sligh, it is. Because, again, them even hitting you once with a Jackal Pup can be the difference between winning and losing, or untapping with a Grim Lavamancer, etc. But it still can be all right. So I'm lukewarm on Engineered Plague, but I think I like bringing in 1 or 2. As for what to take out, Snuff Out, as I mentioned, and I like to shave on discard spells, usually Cabal Therapy. I think it's also okay to trim a Hypnotic Spectre too, but I don't think I would take all of them out because, again, the matchup's about racing, and I think it's better to draw Hypnotic Spectre later than it is to draw Cabal Therapy later, in most cases. What do they have? They will probably be bringing in Overload to kill Curse Scroll and kill Mishra's Factory, which makes sense. This is why the discard can still be good later on, because you can engineer, or not necessarily engineer, but just run into a situation where you can discard their Overload and then activate your factory or play Curse Scroll afterwards. So that's nice. And yeah, you want to watch out for that. They can bring in Price of Progress. Price of Progress is medium against us. It can be all right. Obviously, we have a few non-basic lands, but 2 of them are wastelands, which can destroy themselves. They can also destroy our own Mishra's Factory in a pinch if we really need to. Yeah, so I don't know if Price of Progress is actually that good, but it might be. I guess a Burn or Sligh player can chime in and tell us what they think about that. They can bring in Pyrokinesis if they have it. That's a good card against us. But I don't ultimately know if it's actually a good card to bring in here because it doesn't go to the face. And that is a key of them winning the matchup. So again, I don't really know if that's a good idea or not for them. I guess the Sligh player can chime in. If they have an extra Curse Scroll, they'll bring that in. That's obviously insane. One thing you can play as a Moneyball player is you can play Powder Keg. I have played it in the past. It can destroy opposing Curse Scrolls. It can destroy opposing 1-mana creatures. It is slow to do so. It can be killed by Artifact Destruction in the meantime while you're waiting to tick it up. And you can just get hit by creatures in the meantime while you're waiting to tick it up. And that can be the difference between winning and losing. Powder Keg is a really awkward card. I don't really like it in this deck, as I've mentioned before, because of how slow and awkward it is. And when I say awkward, what I mean is that it also destroys our own Curse Scrolls. So if you play Curse Scroll and then you draw Powder Keg, it's like, okay, well, now you have a scroll insurance, but at the cost of destroying your own scroll, which is very awkward. It can destroy Dreadnought, but they have like a million ways to interact with it. They have their own kegs. They have Vision Charm. They have Stifle. So anyway, I don't want to get on a whole rant about why I don't like Powder Keg, but if I did have it, I guess I would bring it in against Sligh. So yeah, other options. There's Vicious Hunger. There's Spinning Darkness. These cards can be good, but they can also backfire. I've talked about why and why I don't love them. You could play Bottle Gnomes. It's okay. That can also backfire because they can have they can draw Sulfuric Vortex, and then you won't gain any life off it, and it's only it's a 1/3, but for 3 mana, which is a lot. Dark Ritual I do keep in. I guess I didn't talk about that. I do think it's good. It's obviously better if you have Drain Life, and it's good with Nantuko Shade. It's good at rushing out some cards, and I think it's less of a dead draw than the discard, but I could see like trimming on Dark Ritual if you want. That could be something to experiment with. I probably would only cut like one, but I could see it. It's also better if you're bringing in Engineered Blade because it can make that come down in a timely way, and it can help facilitate activating Curse Scroll when you otherwise might not be able to, which again can be the difference between winning and losing in a close matchup like this. So I think that's pretty thorough overview of the Sligh matchup. You will see some matches now, so you can see some of these principles in action. And yeah, we'll move on to the matches. If you enjoyed this kind of content and overview, like and subscribe, leave a comment, and I am planning to do some other. I am planning to focus on other decks soon, but they just enabled replays, so I thought this would be a good opportunity. And like people were talking about Moneyball versus Sligh or whatever, so I think it's pretty interesting. I think a lot of Moneyball's matchups are pretty well understood, and this one maybe is less well understood by the general populace. So yeah, with that, we'll move on to some of the replays. Okay, so this is round one from the challenge. I don't remember these matches that well, so I guess I will be seeing this along with everyone who's watching. I mean, I kind of remember them, so I have to like click through bit by bit, or else it'll go way too fast for the replays. This opener has turn one Ritual Hippie, Therapy. Yeah, I'm assuming I kept this. Let's see. They mulligan to 6. I did keep. I go. No, I don't know what I'm playing against, so I turn one Ritual Hippie. Then they play a mountain, and they bolt my hippie, so that's obviously not a great start. I draw a Curse Scroll. What would I do here? I would. There's not like a rush to get Curse Scroll out against mono reds, so because they can't discard it. So I probably end up therapying them for what would I therapy for here? I guess I would probably maybe Curse Scroll, or maybe like just a Lightning Bolt or something, or Fire Blast. Let's see what I do. Oh no, I do play the scroll. That is an odd decision. I'm not sure why I did that. Maybe I wasn't totally sure what I was playing against. I guess I could, no, that would be a reason to not play it. Yeah, maybe I just wanted to get more information before therapying. Okay, so they play a Grim Lavamancer. So now the jig is up. I draw the swamp. And I probably have to, yeah, I have to smother it. So I do that. They don't have a land, so I'm going to get the opportunity to therapy something. I probably name Fire Blast here. Let's see. I did name Fire Blast, and I hit 2 of them. So I guess this could be another reason why I wanted to wait on the therapy, is that I wanted to have some more time for them to draw a Fire Blast so that I could potentially hit 2 Fire Blasts. Looks like if that was the reason, it worked out. So they had a hand of double Fire Blasts, which are now gone. So Sulfuric Vortex, Lightning Bolt, Incinerate. So it's nice to get the 2 for 1, but their hand is still pretty good. We play a Jackal Pup. So, obviously I don't want to have to cast Snuff out for 4 life. I draw the Swamp. So I'm assuming I just hard cast Snuff out here on this Jackal Pup when it attacks. Yep. They sacrifice and play out the Vortex, I'm assuming. Yeah. Alright, so there's a problem with the 2 burn spells in their hand. But it's not like the end of the world. Okay, so I animate Factory and get in. That makes sense. And then presumably I'm playing the Shade. And I could, I could therapy away one of their cards, but I'm assuming it's better to just make them spend the mana, essentially, to kill my creature. And I don't really want to lose my factory because that is both a good attacker and a mana source to play. Like, you want mana sources so you can scroll and play things after scrolling. Alright, so they incinerate my shade. So now the Vortex and the Incinerate are both gone. They have a Lightning Bolt left in their hand. They play a Goblin Patrol. I take 2, I draw a Wasteland. So I could make them pay 1 for Patrol for the Echo, or I could just kill it and get in with Factory. I think it's better to get in with Factory, although it does open me up to Ball Lightning, but I think these are the kind of calculated risks you sort of need to take in this matchup. So I scroll that, I animate Factory, I get in, I think I play Wasteland here. Oh no, I hold the Wasteland. I guess I can always play it next turn. So they play a Ring. I lose 2. They have a Therapy. So I can get rid of their Bolt and I can Wasteland their Ring and I can get in with Factory. So I'm assuming that's what I'm about to do. I shouldn't say I'm assuming. I mean, I know generally what I did. Just a figure of speech. Okay, so I Therapy them. They bolt me in response. And then I don't want to get in a Factory because I don't want it to get ringed. This here might have been a mistake. Maybe I'm just supposed to offer this. I mean, it feels bad to do it when I have the Wasteland available to kill their Barbarian Ring, and it really isn't doing much else. But I'm also at 11, so maybe this is a mistake. I Wasteland them during their upkeep so they can't play a Ball Lightning if they draw it. This Lightning Bolt is gone. They draw a Grim Lavamancer. Okay, so that obviously needs to die. I draw a Knight of Stromgald here. So actually, this might have been a bit of a mistake that I made the previous turn. What I maybe should have done was just hold the Cabal Therapy and play Wasteland. That way I get to leave up scroll on their turn. So if I had done that, then when they play Grim Lavamancer during their turn, I could have just scrolled it at the end of the turn. Now there wouldn't be a Grim Lavamancer in play, and I could play Knight of Stromgald and leave up scroll with Therapy in hand. They would still have a bolt. They could just bolt the Knight, but I would have scroll up. Tough to say if it was like actually a mistake, but it's going to end up hurting me, and you will see why. So I have to kill Grim Lavamancer here, and then I play Knight of Stromgald. I could have just gotten in with the Factory instead, but it seemed like a good idea to get more damage on the board, and it can attack for a decent amount in the next turn. They take 5. So, I mean, they are dead next turn to a combination of Scroll, Factory, and Knight. However, they draw Ball Lightning, so I die, because this card does not always have first strike. You have to pay mana to give it first strike, and I have none. So that was basically like their one out there. I think everything else I beat, like literally every other card in the deck. So, but you know, they hadn't drawn a Ball Lightning yet, so it's reasonable that they might draw one. So now I lose the Sulfuric Vortex. So I took another look at this, and I definitely did punt this game. Here's what would have happened if I had not tapped out for scroll on my turn. That turn I played the Wasteland and Wastelanded their Barbarian Ring. I would have played Wasteland, leaving up scroll, not played Cabal Therapy. I waste them on their upkeep. They use Ring, put me to 12. They go to 9 from the Vortex. They draw Lavamancer. They pretty much have to play it to eat up a scroll activation. So I would scroll it. They would know I have Cabal Therapy. I go to 10 on upkeep from the Vortex. Then I would draw Knight of Stromgald and play it and pass, leaving up scroll. They could then choose to either bolt me or the Knight or hold it. But if they bolt me, I'm at a virtual 5 from the bolt. I would go to 7 plus 5 on my next upkeep. But nothing they can draw deals 5 damage. So I would kill them with the Knight plus Factory plus Scroll, because they would be at a virtual, they would go to 7 and then 5, and that's 6 damage. So they kind of have to kill the Knight. So let's say they killed the Knight with Bolt. They would draw Ball Lightning. I would have Scroll up. They have to play it to keep me from scrolling them, so they do. I would scroll it. I go to 8 on my upkeep. Now I can attack with Factory, putting them to 5. I have Therapy in hand. I could play it to keep Scroll active if I have to. Actually, no, that's not true. If I attacked with Factory, that would take up 2 of my mana. So I wouldn't necessarily be able to hold up Scroll. It kind of depends what I draw. But I might be able to. Anyway, they would go to 3 on their turn. And assuming I was able to activate Scroll, I could put them to 1, but that wouldn't necessarily matter. Either way, I don't think there's anything they can draw to put me low enough for Vortex to kill me, because I'm at a virtual 6 at that point. So, and I may have Scroll up for a second Ball Lightning. I guess if for some reason I couldn't leave up Scroll for Ball Lightning. No, but that doesn't matter because I could just scroll them on my next upkeep. So yeah, I think I had the win and threw it away. The only explanation for why I did it that way is I think the turn that I played the Wasteland and scrolled, I thought maybe I could also activate Factory and attack. I think maybe I thought I had enough mana to do all of it, but I did not. So that was a mistake, and you can see how kind of intricate this matchup can be. But leaving up a scroll activation on your opponent's turn is a good rule of thumb, and for some reason I did not follow it in this particular game. Okay, so this is game 2. I'm on the play. I draw a hand of a bunch of lands and a duress. I think this doesn't have enough action, so I have to mulligan. I mulligan to a 2-lander with Rats, Edict, Duress. This is a keep, and I think I put back Shade. Yeah, because Shade, while good, is pretty mana intensive, so I think the 2/2 Wretch is better early. I duress them. I see the hand you see before you: Firebolt, Jackal, Lightning Bolt, Fire Blast, Lava Dart, 2 lands. I'm assuming I took Bolt. Yeah, that's reasonable because it's easier to get Fire Blast later. Let's pop this out. Got rid of the Bolt. Okay, so they're going to play a Jackal Pup. So that's gone, that's gone. This has me skipping. Oh, yeah. I think I accidentally skipped through my turn here. I mean, clearly I did. And now that this happened, now that I'm seeing this, I remember this happening. Yep, so I accidentally skipped through my turn, which is obviously not good. But they didn't have another creature. So, yeah, I took 2 and I didn't need to. So obviously that's not something you want to do. I would have edicted. So I would be at 20 right now. Okay, so then they get to go. They used up their Bloodstained Mire. I don't think that ended up mattering. All right, they play Sulfuric Vortex, which they drew. I go to 16. I draw Diabolic Edict. Play a land. I Wasteland. I can Wasteland their. I can rat them and Wasteland their Ring, which I'm assuming is what I do. They do have a Lava Dart, which isn't ideal. They discard Fire Blast, though, which is honestly kind of weird. But that's what they did. I Wasteland them. So looking back at it here, this should have been a big sign that they probably had a second Fire Blast. But I do not think I realized that while the game was being played. They take 2. They play Grim Lavamancer. They dart my rat. I take 2. I edict. I have to kill this Grim Lavamancer as soon as possible. This dart is gone. So I should be at 2 higher life and have 1 extra land in play, but at the end of the day, it wasn't. I guess if I had an extra land in play there, I could have played Wretch that turn. Oops. So yeah, I draw, I duress them, I take their Fire Blast. They have Firebolt, Incinerate. Play Wasteland, play Wretch. I think during their upkeep, I exile their Lava Dart, or their Lava Dart. They take 2. So, you know, I am definitely in a bad position here. But if I draw a bunch of creatures, then I could get out of it. They have to Firebolt my Withered Wretch, play a land. Now they have an Incinerate. I go to 10. I draw a useless Smother. So again, this is one of the problems that can happen with removal spells here. I mean, yeah, sometimes you have removal and they don't have creatures. Sulfuric Vortex is not always a slam dunk for them either, because if you do have creatures attacking them, it can cause them to lose the race. But as you can see, I draw another land here. They still have Incinerate that they're holding. They draw another land. So at this point, I'm pretty much drawing dead, because they'll either Incinerate me. They're either going to draw burn or lands, or creatures, I guess. Creatures would be the least bad. But you know, I'm already at 6. I draw Dark Ritual. That's a blank. But note that a discard spell wouldn't be great either, because they could just play their burn in response. So if they had a Overload or something, it could get that if I had an artifact. So they Incinerate me, and then they bolt me. So, you know, this is one of those games that makes it look like you have no chance, because the burn player just draws a bunch of burn spells and you don't draw sufficient pressure. Did have to mulligan, and I did accidentally skip my turn, but I don't think that it really ended up mattering in this particular game. But the first game was pretty close. So anyway, you can see how it can look not very close. I mean, some of the games are not close, but some of them are. And the key is to win the close ones. So that was my first match against Burn. I lost 0-2, but there are some others coming up. Okay, so this is match 2, game 1 against Burn, or Sligh, whatever you want to call it. This is a somewhat weak hand. Let's see, did I keep this? Looks like I mulliganed. It just had too many non-action spells. I'm sure I kept this and put a swamp on the bottom, and we're off to the races. Looks like they are on the play. They play a mountain and a Seal of Fire. So the jig is up. I kind of immediately know what they're playing, which is useful because I drew a Cabal Therapy. So, all right, finally we kind of run into an interesting decision. So I now have the option of, not the option, I have the obligation to therapy them right now. And I guess I should say why it's necessary to do this right now. Basically, my next 2 or 3 turns are kind of spoken for. I either need the option to smother something, or I just want to play my creature. I know what I'm playing against. So I think waiting to like draw a duress potentially to get more information for therapy is really not something you can afford to do. First of all, you might not draw it. You really only have 1 turn to draw it. And second of all, you want to be using your mana efficiently in this matchup, and you need to have the potential to clear out cards from the hand before they're empty-handed, which in the case of Sligh or Burn can happen pretty quickly. So that's why you have to fire it off here. Now the question is, what do you name? We can basically rule out all 1 mana creatures, because those would have been cast turn 1, I think, in like 99% of cases. So what's left? There's burn spells. There's Lightning Bolt, Fire Bolt, Fire Blast. There's Curse Scroll. And that's pretty much it. So what's the logic? There's also Ball Lightning. Ball Lightning and Fire Blast are not that attractive to name here, because they're not cards that my opponent is probably going to be able to play immediately or want to play right away. So you have a little bit of time left to flashback therapy potentially, or draw a different discard spell and use it on those later. So that kind of just narrows it down to like more Seal of Fire, Fire Bolt, Lightning Bolt, or Curse Scroll. Curse Scroll is very good, and it's a card they wouldn't necessarily have played on turn 1. However, they usually don't play that many copies, like 2 or 3. Lightning Bolt's a 4 of in all Burn or Sligh decks, so that's a pretty prime candidate. Firebolt, again, less frequently played. Seal of Fire, they just played 1, so their odds of having another are, by necessity, lower. So for all these reasons combined, I think this leads me to play, or to name Lightning Bolt with my therapy, which I think is correct. So I cast it, I name Lightning Bolt. Oh, plus the fact that I didn't even mention, but I have a bunch of creatures that die to Lightning Bolt that I don't want them to bolt. Now, they have an answer to one of them already, but, you know, Lightning Bolt kills all your creatures, so it's a pretty good card. And also, even if I did somehow think they had a creature, I do have a Smother. So I kind of have an answer, and there's a lot drawing me away from naming a creature here. So I name Lightning Bolt, and I hit 2 Lightning Bolts. Listen, this is part of how this deck wins. So yeah, sometimes you get lucky, and you not only do you hit 2 copies of a card, but you see an additional 2 copies of another card that they can't play next turn. So we get rid of those 2 Lightning Bolts, and then it goes over to them. They play their mountain and pass the turn. Goes back to us. We draw a swamp, and here we are pretty easily going to play Withered Wretch and sacrifice it immediately to get 2 Ball Lightnings out of their hand, and their last card is a land. So we're in a pretty good spot here. We just got a 4 for 2, and now granted our hand isn't that amazing, but their hand is gone, so it's pretty even. They play land, they play a Jackal Pup. So that is a card that needs to die. Fortunately, I have many ways to do it. I'm going to use Chainer's Edict that I just drew here so that I can leave open the instant speed removal for any future Ball Lightnings or anything really. It's just better to play an instant speed, and they don't have any creatures that that can only be killed by Chainer's Edict and not Smother. So it's a pretty easy decision. They draw and play a land. I draw a land and play Hypnotic Spectre, which is just going to die. But again, that's what happens in this matchup. They draw something, pass, I attack. They are going to seal this Spectre away. I play land, pass the turn. They draw. They draw a Sulfuric Vortex. So they have 1 card, we have 2 cards. We're both at 20. They play a Sulfuric Vortex. So I am, despite doing all that, I'm still not necessarily in an amazing position. I am taking the first damage off this Vortex, but it's definitely a fairly good position. And I do have a Chainer's Edict in the graveyard that I can use if I draw a bunch more lands. Here I draw Graveborn Muse. So, I mean, yeah, there's really no choice. I have to play this Muse and hope it draws me into some things that will help me race this Sulfuric Vortex, in addition to itself, which also helps because it's a 3/3. They untap, take 2, and they draw Ball Lightning. Conveniently, I have Smother available to cast, so I Smother it to prevent taking a lot of damage. I take 2 and 1 more and draw a Withered Wretch off my Graveborn Muse, and then I draw an Nantuko Shade for turn. So I attack with Graveborn Muse, and I think here I decided not to play Withered Wretch because I was like scared of it dealing me too much damage, and was hoping they would have to like kill the Graveborn Muse and then I could play it. And also to hold up mana to pump Nantuko Shade, because with 3 mana up, I can protect it from a Lightning Bolt or Incinerate. They draw a Grim Lavamancer, which is pretty good. However, I now have the Shade in play. I take 2, and then 1 more from the Graveborn Muse, draw a Factory, and draw another Factory. So now I attack. They, you know, I can conclude that their last card, it's not a mountain, but I don't know what it is, but I can conclude it's nothing particularly relevant. Because I think they would have played it if it was any kind of burn spell before now. So, you know, I'm getting in with my creatures. I can, if, yeah, let's see. This is 5 damage plus 5 more, so that's 10. So they would go to 1 if they don't block when combined with their Sulfuric Vortex. So I think based on that decision, or based on that fact, they decide it's better to block, which makes some sense. So I just pump the Shade out of range. And I don't play the Wretch again because I'm afraid of getting burned out. They're going to be going to 8, and now they are, in fact, even if they kill this Shade somehow, they're facing down lethal from Factory plus Pump from other Factory plus Graveborn Muse would deal them 6, and then the last 2 would be from their own Vortex. So they play a Mog Fanatic. So that actually can block, and it can't actually stop me from killing them unless they have something else in their hand, because, again, even if they block Shade, I can get in for 6. So I lose 1 from there are 2 from the Vortex, 1 more from the Muse. I happen to draw a Diabolic Edict, so it makes it automatic. I Edict them. They ping me for once in response, and then I have a bunch of attackers, and they are going to die to their own Vortex on their upkeep, or I could have pumped. Either way. All right, so that was game 1. We got it down to kind of even with a Vortex, and then I drew out of it with the help of Graveborn Muse. There's a lot of situations where Graveborn Muse would have been not quite as good there, but there are situations where it is good, and that is one example. Okay, so now we're in game 2 of this match. I'm on the draw. I draw a hand with 5 lands, but including Factory. So I think I'd probably keep this. Let's see. Yeah, I did keep it because, Factory is almost like a spell in this matchup. And it has a removal spell for an early creature, although not a 1-mana removal spell, but I only play 1 of those, so you can't really rely on having it. So this Lavamancer is going to get to plink in for 1, but what can you do? I draw a land. I mean, I guess you could try a mulligan for a Dark Ritual, but I don't think that's a great idea. I draw another land, so the draw is not going super well right now. I get incinerated. I go ahead and smother the Lavamancer before they can untap with it. And they play Pyrostatic Pillar. And they're down to 2 cards. I think that, yeah, they mulliganed. So we're behind on the damage race, but we do have more cards than them, although most of them are lands. Here I just play Shade. I don't think I can afford to wait around here. And I play Factory so I can start pressuring them. They bolt the Shade. Pretty hard to prevent that. And they play a Vortex. So now they're taking 2, but they are putting us under a lot of pressure with the Vortex. I take 2, I draw a Rat, and I think I decide it's worth it here to get their last card. And their last card ends up being an Overload. So that could have killed my Factory, so it seemed worth. They're at 14, then they're at 12. And they draw Grim Lavamancer. So I was in a pretty good position there, but them drawing Lavamancer is a problem because now I have to take some more damage to kill it or I'm going to die. So I take 2 from the Vortex. I draw Vendetta, but I'm pretty sure I choose to use Chainer's Edict because it's won't deal me 1 extra damage. I Chainer's Edict them, taking 2 more. So here, the situation might look bad, but really, I'm attacking for 3. They go to 7, then they go to 5. I would go to 4 on my upkeep. Then I attack them for 3 more. They go to 2 and then die to their Vortex. So they actually just have 1 turn to draw something before I kill them. And anything they draw, if it costs 2 or less, doesn't actually save them because they can use it to kill a Factory. They can use it to hurt me, but I don't need to play any more spells. So I will end up winning the race unless they draw exactly Ball Lightning or Fire Blast, I believe. So I'm going to attack them for 3. They go to 7. They go to 5 on their upkeep. So if they draw a Bolt, they can bolt me, but it will only put me to 1, and then I will attack them, and the the pillar would finish them off. Incinerate, same thing. If they draw a creature, they take 2 down to 3 and get attacked for 1, and then take 2 from Vortex next turn. Unless it's a ball lightning. Ball lightning kills me. And actually, after looking at this again, I realized that ball lightning's not an out either, because I can Vendetta the ball lightning and take 3. 2 from the pillar, 1 from the Vendetta, and I take 2 on my upkeep, but that only puts me to 1, and then I would kill them on the next attack with the pillar plus vortexes from them. So actually it was just only Fire Blast as far as I could tell. But yeah, any other thing in their deck I believe is not enough. So I'm in a pretty good spot here, despite really only playing like a few spells, because they traded favorably with my opponent's spells and they played these cards that damage them, and I have Factory to race back. They did end up drawing, let's see. Is this thing messed up here somehow? There we go. All right, so they ended up drawing Fire Blast and killing me. Which is annoying, but these are the kinds of games that happen in Burn versus Sligh. They're extremely quick, usually, and every card matters, and you're just kind of trying to reduce your opponent's outs as much as possible, but sometimes they draw it. Okay, so here we are in game 3. I'm on the play. I draw this opening hand. This is a good hand. I'm sure I kept this hand. Has an early answer to their turn 1 creature, and it has Rats, which is a good card in the matchup. Has Wretch, which is fine, and Graveborn Muse, which I also think is fine. They play a Jackal-Pup. I kill that immediately and go to my turn. I guess I could pause here and explain why I did this. You might think, why kill the pup? You have a Rats. The Rats can block the pup. But I mean, if you play the Rats, they kill the Rats. Let's say they Lava Dart it or something. Then I'm taking 2 from the Jackal-Pup. I could try to play another creature to block it. They could kill that. I could take 2 more. And yes, technically they are spending cards to get it through, but just in general, a good rule of thumb is to try and prevent their creatures from damaging you as much as possible. Now, if I didn't have the Vendetta, then it's certainly nice to have Rats as a second option to either force it to trade with the pup or force them to use a burn spell on the Rats in addition to the card they discarded. So Rats is good as like a backup plan or whatever, but if you have the option to kill their creature, you still should. Okay, so I play Rats here. No, I don't play Rats. I play Withered Wretch. I'm not totally sure why I played with Withered Wretch first. I guess it blocks or it attacks better. So maybe I'm trying to force them to use a removal spell on it and like mess up their turn a little bit, try and prevent them from doing what they want to do. But I actually probably think it makes more sense to have done that the next turn, because then they would have to play Ball Lightning instead. I mean, they could just have a burn spell open. There's lots of ways for them to kill a Withered Wretch. Yeah, I'm not sure why I did that or why it would necessarily be better to do one or the other. I think probably I should have played Rats, but I can't really articulate why. Anyway, I attack with my Wretch. It gets sealed. I can exile 1 card for future, to mess up future Grim Lavamancers a little bit, and then I have to play Rats. So I do, and it nabs a Lava Dart, which isn't ideal. Makes me, well, they could have killed it at any time, I guess. So there's the Lava Dart. They draw, but pass. So they don't have a land, which is kind of scary, because in a position like this, it seems like it'll be bad for me, because they might not have a land, but I'm sure they have a bunch of burn spells they could play, and eventually they'll draw lands. Meanwhile, I already have essentially like you really only need like 4 lands, so I already have 1 extra land that I don't really have any use for. So I will say at this juncture, it doesn't look that great for me in this game. But let's see what happens. I draw another Rats, which is pretty solid, especially since they're mana screwed. So they're going to have a hard time playing out all the cards in their hand before this Rats is able to get something. And it's going to get something good because they don't have any lands. So it's going to get a real spell. I attack with the Rats. They take it because they don't want to spend a removal spell on a 1/1. And then I think I just play the Graveborn Muse, yeah, for mana efficiency. I'm assuming this is going to die. Yep, so they do bolt that, which I think is correct. Then they bolt me. So there's 2 bolts gone. They draw land, and they play Ball Lightning. So I'm about to take 6. I go to 10. So it was looking kind of rough, and it still looks kind of rough. But they have 2 cards left. I draw Swamp. Play a Swamp. I play a second Ravenous Rats. So this is going to get a good card because that's all they have. And it ends up getting an Incinerate. Not horrible. So they attack for 1. I could almost guarantee you the last card in their hand is either like a Vortex, a Ball Lightning, or a Fire Blast at this point. So I'm at 10, they're at 17 with 2 cards in hand. Doesn't look great for me here, but I do have what are combined equal a Grizzly Bear in play, 2 1/1s. They play a Mog Fanatic. Pretty sure that's the card they just drew. And draw a Hypnotic Spectre, also known as Windrake. So I play that. I probably should have decided if I was attacking first. I guess I decided not to attack. I think I probably could have attacked. What I probably should have done, let's see, if I attack, they block and shoot Rats, and then I play Hippie. It's pretty safe. I think I was just trying to prevent any and all damage from being dealt to myself that I possibly could. So if I like attack with both Rats, they can burn my Hippie, burn my Rats, and deal me 1 with the Fanatic. I mean, they do have the Dart in their graveyard, so they can definitely get rid of the Rats. So if I attack with the Rats, they can dart away Rats, bolt away the Spectre, and deal me 1. So I think I was trying to play it safe here and avoid taking as much damage as possible. But I don't necessarily know if that's the right play. I mean, in the abstract, it makes sense, but, you know, then they just have more turns. Like, if you don't kill them, they get more turns to draw burn spells, but you also don't want to take damage. So these are the kind of close calls you can run into. Anyway, they attack with the Fanatic, so it's easy block with the Ravenous Rats here. They shoot the Spectre, and then they're going to use the Dart to get rid of the Spectre. So they decided it's better to kill the Spectre than both of my Rats. Probably because their last card is Fire Blast, and they don't want to be faced with the choice of either playing it and losing 2 lands or just discarding it and not playing it at all. So you can see actually how Spectre sometimes is good. Even the threat of it, even though it probably will never connect, even the threat of it can make Fire Blast kind of awkward. So that's what happened in this game. I draw a Wasteland, I attack with my 2 Rats, put them to 15, play land, pass the turn. They draw. Don't know what they drew. They're not playing it. I have no choice but to continue to attack with Ravenous Rats. I drew another land. I play it, I pass the turn, they draw. They have at least 1 land in their hand. Or sorry, they drew at least 1 land. We don't know their last 2 cards, but we kind of do. I draw a Factory, which is great. Keep getting with my Rats. They're now down to 11. We're now basically at an even life total. I play Factory, which represents 2 more damage. They play another land. They don't play Factory because they don't have any. Although they could have played a Barbarian Ring, which would, you know, represent 2 damage. And I guess some versions do play Factory. So it's possible they could play Factory, but most versions don't play any. Or they play like 2. I animate my Factory and attack. And now they're getting put in the vice because they either have to send the burn at these creatures, which they really don't want to do because I'm kind of close to being dead. But if they don't, then these creatures can race them. They decide to take it and go to 7. I play a Windrake / Hypnotic Spectre and pass the turn. And now they are 2, 3, 4, 5. They're facing down going to 1, but not lethal. What do they draw here? Ball Lightning. All right, so that's a nice one. If I don't block this, I go to 4, and then their Fire Blast will kill me. So I have to block. So I block. And I go to 6 life. I draw another land, Animate Factory, and attack. I can't really beat another Ball Lightning, so there's no point trying. And I get in with all my creatures and put them dead next turn. They go to 3, and they get one more draw to pair any burn spell with the Fire Blast that they certainly have, and the other land that they certainly have. Because we would be dead if it was anything but that. They draw, and they play Jackal Pup. Not what they're looking for. Now they have to block, or sorry, they can't block, so they have to kill one of my creatures, or they're going to die. I draw a swamp. So I Animate Factory, and attack with everything, because this is the only way to force them to use, I suppose in theory I could have held back a Rats. This is interesting. Yeah, if I attack with Factory and Rats, I could hold back a Rats. They still have to use their Fire Blast on Factory or they die. They go to 2. I have Rats to block. But then they're still dead next turn. And I have Rats to block. So yeah, I guess maybe I should have held back a Rats here. That's interesting. I didn't really think about this, but I didn't think it made any difference, so I attacked with everything. They are forced to use Fire Blast on Mishra's Factory, and then they go to 1. But this does let them, I mean, I'm at 6 now. We can safely conclude their last card as a land. So they now have the out of another Fire Blast to kill me, whereas if I had left my Rats back, that wouldn't be an out. And they would be at 2. So yeah, I suppose I should have left back a Rats. That was a little bit of a mistake. So I thought about this a little bit more, about attacking with the Rats or not. I think it is correct to attack with the second Rats, because if I only attack with 1, they kill Factory, they go to 2, they can then draw a burn spell and kill my Rats and attack me to 4. And then I am I'm in danger of, I can then attack them to 1, but then I die to an attack plus any other burn spell. So then I kind of have to leave my Rats back. So I think in the interest of giving them as few draws as possible, it makes sense to attack with the Rats, and I think their top decks are generally kind of better than mine, so I want to reduce the number of draws they have. They don't draw anything, and I believe they concede the game. Yeah. So it was a close game 3. We both drew a lot of lands. If we assume their last card, one of their last cards is a land, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, not counting the fetch land. Meanwhile, we drew 1 plus 9, 10. So they drew 7, we drew 10 lands. And the reason we were still able to win is because of this card right here, Ravenous Rats, which got 2 of their cards. Now imagine how this would have gone if this was a Knight of Stromgald. Instead of it getting one of their cards and staying in play, it would have not made them discard. They would have just killed it with a burn spell, and we would have had nothing attacking them this whole time. And we certainly would have lost. So this is why Ravenous Rats is so good in this matchup can watch the game again if you want to verify it for yourself. But this is the kind of card that is needed to win a razor-thin margin matchup like this one. And we also saw the Hypnotic Spectre is actually still kind of good in certain situations. Now, if it was a Cabal Therapy and I, had therapied them, forced them to sack both their lands to play Fire Blast, maybe that would have been okay too. But the Spectre also ate a different burn spell. It ate like a Fanatic and a Lava Dart, which a Cabal Therapy would not have done. So something to consider. Anyway, we'll be back for the third match. All right, so then I play the same player again in the finals. Unfortunately, game one is messed up on the replay. Like, it doesn't work. It's showing something very weird that didn't happen. It basically shows me as mulliganing and then passing my first turn, and then there's a pause, and then it has me winning the game. So it doesn't show any of what actually happened in the game, unfortunately. So yeah, the replay for this finals is kind of messed up. But I think game two worked. So I won game one. I believe this was my hand in game two. I mulliganed that one because it didn't have double black, and yeah, it was just awkward. And I kept this. They also mulliganed. Put back a swamp. They play Mog Fanatic. I play a land, and I pass the turn. I guess I decided it was worth taking 1 damage to like preserve the option of using Dark Ritual later for something. It's a little questionable, but I guess I can see the logic. It's possible I should have just Dark Ritualed out a Rats or something. All right, so there's Grim Lavamancer. I draw a Swamp, and now I'm going to presumably use the Ritual. No, I just play Rats. Okay, I'm continuing to preserve the Ritual. So I Rats away a Bolt. They play a Bloodstained Mire, sack it, and play... They decide to play Vortex. So this could have backfired on me quite badly if they had not played a 3-mana spell here. They could have just emptied their hand, and then my Rats wouldn't have done anything. So I think this was probably a little bit loose of me. I guess I want to preserve the Ritual for a future Nantuko Shade or Drain Life or something, but it's a little sketchy. Anyway, I drew Curse Scroll. So what can I do here? I play a Rats, get their last card. Which is Curse Scroll, which is definitely a extremely good card to be able to get. And I can understand why my opponent played Vortex, because it costs 3 mana. So it's not easy to like get that out of your hand and start using Curse Scroll. So it makes sense. But yeah, nabbing the Curse Scroll is extremely clutch here. Now I Ritual into Retch into Scroll. So they have 1 turn to draw a answer to the scroll, but if they don't, then I'm going to get to scroll away their Lavamancer. They take 2. I Lavamancer away my Withered Wretch. And I should just explain that maybe. I played this, even though I knew it was going to die, just to draw fire away from my face. And yeah, in a tempo-based matchup like this, or I shouldn't say tempo-based because that doesn't really mean that much, but in a matchup like this where, every damage to your life total is relevant, sometimes that can be worth doing. Often it can be worth doing, and I thought it was worth doing there. All right, so I draw a Wretch, but now I'm able to scroll away the Lavamancer, so I do that, naming Wretch, and I decide it's safe to get in with one of these Rats. They decide to trade. I guess theoretically I should have done that first, but I think they knew I was about to scroll their Lavamancer, so I don't think much information was revealed there. They take 2. They draw a Ring that is going to have a hard time activating because I have Withered Wretch. I draw a Dark Ritual. So I think what I can do here is I can scroll. I can use Ritual to scroll and play Wretch and remove a card, which I think is what I end up doing. No, I'm wrong. I Mishra's Factory, animate Mishra's Factory and attack. Interesting play, and then I just play. Oh yeah, then I just play Wretch. No, that makes sense actually, because why not do all of it? Because you're doing 2 either way. And then I save my Ritual in case I need to use it or want to use it later. So they firebolt my Wretch. I guess the disadvantage of doing it this way is I don't get to like remove a card from their graveyard. So I take 2, and I draw a Drain Life. So I was playing better at the time than I am now, because obviously preserving the Ritual here for Drain Life is huge. Even though it doesn't gain me any life, but it is going to virtually guarantee that I win this race. So I Ritual and I Drain Life for 4. Yeah, for 4. Putting them to 6. And I guess I didn't attack with the rats because they are dead either way next turn to their own vortex. That's interesting. I think there could have been an argument for attacking with rats because they could conceivably kill me on their upkeep, but I guess they have plenty of lands to play whatever they draw. So yeah, never mind. Yeah, that's fine. They play a Grim Lavamancer, that's going to be too slow. I untap, take 2, and now I can just scroll them, and they will die to their own Sulfuric Vortex. Which I believe is what happens. So these matchups kind of bring into question whether it's actually good to play Vortex for them. It still might be, but it's definitely a very dangerous card to have against this deck. Maybe you need it, but it's important that we, have enough creatures to put pressure on them and sources of damage in general to make it scary to try and race with Sulfuric Vortex and Pyrostatic Pillar. And yeah, you can see how these matches went. It was really a pure race, and priority number 1 was killing their early creatures and then nabbing some cards if you can with Ravenous Rats and racing them. I think it's pretty clear that Rats, being a 1/1 that gets one of their cards and sticks around, is a world different than just playing a Grizzly Bear that dies. I mean, you do have some of those already, but it's great to have something that gets a card from them. So hopefully this was a good illustration of how these matchups tend to go. Unfortunately, the replay didn't work for game 1, but we still got a decent number of games shown and kind of talked through, and I talked through the matchup at the beginning. If you enjoyed this, if you want to see future videos, please like and subscribe, and hopefully this was interesting. Until next time, we'll see you later.